I was recently asked to play this tune, and I found that there wasn't a whole lot of information out there on it. For guitar players, there's some simple chord arrangements available, but not much in terms of like a transcription or what's actually going on with the guitar on the recording of this. So here, first of all, this tuning is to me a weird one. I don't play much in alternate tunings. I'm familiar with the common ones, but this is one I have not seen before. I would call it DAC-FAF. So from the 6th string up, we're going to drop our low E string down a whole step to D. A is going to stay the same. 4th string D is going to drop a whole step to C. Our 3rd string G drops a whole step to F. 2nd string B drops a whole step to A, and our 1st string E goes up a half step to F. So it's not really an open tuning per se, although you could just fret this one note and get a nice pretty F chord there. But through trial and error, I found that this seems to work for this song. So first of all, our very first chord here, we've got an F, and what we're going to do is go 3rd fret on the 6th string, and then our 4th string will be open. We're not really going to be playing the 5th string much at all in this song. On the 3rd string, we will have the 4th fret. So I'm using my 1st and 3rd fingers of my fretting hand here. That's just nice and comfortable for me. And for my picking hand, my right hand, I'm going to have my thumb on the 6th string for a whole lot of this, my index on the 4th, and my middle on the 3rd string. So we start out, we're going to pluck the 6th and 3rd string. So I'm going thumb and middle finger here. Now in the intro, which also doubles as the first part of the chorus for the most part in this song, we're going to hit those 2 strings, and the 6th string, we have this bass note, like a quarter note, going on the whole time. It's constant. So we start out our first right on the downbeat of 1, 1. Then on beat 2, we're going to hit that 6th string again. Then 4th string with the 1st finger, 6th string again, 3rd, and 6th. So the pattern is this. And that's going to be a pretty common pattern throughout this piece. So now our next chord shape, I do have some sheet music for this, but it's only so helpful, and it's not really written for the guitar. It has chord names, but that's about it. Our next chord here, really it's a G minor, well, it's listed as a G minor 7, but the way we're going to do this is, or at least the way that I do this, you could even bar it if you wanted. It's all on the same fret, 5th fret. Personally, I'm going middle finger on the 6th string, then my ring and pinky on the 4th and 3rd strings. Once again, not playing the 5th string at all. Same pattern for the picking hand. Then we're going to scoot up, and this is a B flat 6 chord, and there's a few different ways you could probably do this, but for myself, what works really well, I'm going to go middle finger, 2nd finger on the 8th fret of this 6th string, 1st finger on the 7th fret of the 4th string, and ring finger on the 9th fret of the 3rd string. Same pattern once again, and this time we play it through twice. And that's basically the intro. That phrase is played through twice, and then the verse begins. So just to recap the introduction slowly. And then that whole thing is repeated. So now our verse kicks in, and this first chord here in the verse, what I'm going to do is go middle finger on the 7th fret 6th string. This gives us a, what is that bass note? D, E, F, G, A. It's an A bass note. I think this is an F over A. but in another part of the music, the same chord is listed as an A minor or an A minor 7. At any rate, what I'm hearing on the recording sounds a lot like this. It's the same pattern once again, but we've got 7th fret 6th string, open 4th, and ring finger 7th fret 3rd string. Just once there. Then we're going to go back up to that same B6 we had in the intro. Same picking pattern. Then we're going back down to that very first F chord that we had on the 1st and 3rd frets down here. And this pattern, this chord we're going to play for a full measure, and it's a little bit different than what we had in the intro. So we're starting out the same way, except that right at the tail end we're going to add that open 4th string in here. So the first half of this pattern is, then we're going to go, so all together for this measure we're going thumb and middle finger, thumb index, thumb middle, thumb middle thumb, thumb middle, thumb index thumb. I think I got that right. Now we're going to go up to that 7th fret chord we started the verse with, but we're going to add a note to it on the 7th fret of the 2nd string. And our picking pattern is going to be a little bit different this time. So what we're going to do here, we're going to go thumb and middle together on beat 1, and then index on the open string. Then we're going to go thumb and 2nd string. I bring my ring finger in for this. You could drop your middle finger if you wanted. And then that open 4th again. So, and then the rest of that progression continues as before. So we're back up to this thing and back down to our F. All right, now third time through this progression is a little bit different yet. We're going to do that same thing with the 7th fret on the 6th, 3rd, and 2nd strings, along with the open 4th string. But our picking pattern is different here, and I believe this is the only time this happens in this song. Here's what the pattern sounds like. So what's happening here is we're going thumb and middle, thumb index, thumb 2nd string, I'm using my ring finger, and thumb again. So slowly. Then we're back up to the B6, B flat 6, excuse me, just as before, and down to our F chord again. But this time we're doing this kind of descending. So we're going F, and we're going thumb and middle, then open 4th string. Now this is a C over an E, and so what I'm doing is going from my 1st and 3rd fingers here, back a fret. I'm just scooting my index finger back, bringing in my 2nd finger on the 3rd string. Once again, 4th string is just open. Same thing, thumb middle, and then index on the open 4th string. Now we go for this D minor, I guess, and what we're going to do here, I'm just bringing my middle finger in, 2nd fret on our 4th string, and this is the same pattern we had earlier on that F toward the end of the progression in the verse. So thumb middle, thumb index, thumb middle, thumb index, thumb. And then thumb index, thumb middle, thumb. Now we're hopping back up to this 5th fret G minor or G minor 7 thing. So 5 on the 6th, 4th, and 3rd strings. Now this is, I think here, this once again is the only time this particular thing happens. When this section of the song rolls back around, I don't think it's done the same way the next time. So this first time it sounds like this. So here, you're going to want your index first finger kind of at the ready on the 4th fret of this 3rd string for this one. So we're starting out with our thumb and middle finger still on that 3rd string, thumb index, thumb again. Now here what we're going to do is take our pinky off, and that first finger's at the 4th fret. So we pluck that note, then the bass note again with the thumb, bring the pinky back, pick that note, then we go thumb index, thumb middle, thumb. So slowly once again. And this next thing that happens also only happens like this one time. I guess it's a C to a C6 to a C7, but we're only really playing 1 or 2 notes at a time. So we're going to have the open 4th string and the 2nd fret on our 3rd string. I'm just going thumb and index for that, whatever works for you. Now I think that open 4th string here, that's just ringing. Once we pluck that, we let it ring, and we're just gonna. So the first 3 beats of this measure we have, it's almost like a C power chord. Let that open string ring. Then we're going 4th fret. It's a little vibrato on this note you can hear. And then there's beat 3. Beat 4 is a rest, just silence. Then we get into our first chorus. Now this first chorus, again, there's something that happens here right off the bat, and I believe it's the only time it happens, at least as of this recording, that is my belief. I'm still kind of working through this song, but I think instead of doing which, that intro riff serves as the first part of the chorus throughout the song, except for in this very first measure of the very first chorus. So you could keep it consistent and do the same thing, of course. But what I believe is happening here is so it's the 3rd fret on the 6th string, and then the next 3 strings open. You could go thumb, index, middle, ring there. For me, it's a little bit easier to go thumb, thumb, index, middle. Keeps it a little more consistent for my picking hand. But then it just goes back to what it was doing in the intro. So it becomes. Now we're going to do this next little bit. We start on that same F, same pattern. Then we go for that G minor thing, 5th fret on 6th, 4th, and 3rd strings, same pattern. Then we're going for this F over A or A minor, whatever it actually is here. So we've got that open 4th string still, 7th fret on the 3rd. So now this is a little different than before. It's not the B flat 6 this time, it's just a B flat, which in this tuning, all that means for us is instead of fretting that 7th fret on the 4th string and doing this shape, we're just going to leave the 4th string open. And it's the same pattern as everything else was. So slowly kind of climbing up, ascending here. Then we go back to that G minor. That same pattern. Now, this next little bit, I'm going to be honest, it's really hard for me to hear. I've tried it on a lot of different speaker systems, panning this way and that. I think it's just a C chord, and I think it's all I can really hear are those 2 notes in there. And it sounds like maybe it's like a just back and forth on those 2 strings, or it's a real subtle thing. A second guitar comes in the chorus and everything gets a little bit harder to hear, and then the strings come in and it gets real hard to hear. So after that C, we're going back to our F. And now what I think is actually happening with this guitar part on the recording is something like just, but the other guitar in there gets really prominent right in that spot where this guitar kind of stops playing and just lets things ring. So I do add a little bit here. You heard that on the opening video. So what I'm doing there, for what it's worth, I'm doing the. So it's thumb and middle, thumb index, thumb middle, thumb, and I'm using my ring, but on the first string, because that note's really kind of pops in there to me, so I like to throw it in there. And then I go to kind of round out the pattern. You could also, that other guitar, it almost on the recording, if you were to merge the parts, it almost sounds more something like, so you could do that too. So on the tail end, instead of that time I went, which is third, second, third, first strings. You can probably find something that works for you or use any of these suggestions. Doing my best here with the recordings available. There is a kind of a karaoke-ish version that sounds almost like it's just a stripped recording, like the same recording without vocals, but there's at least one discrepancy in there with the guitar that I have heard, so I don't entirely trust that version, but it does exist and it was kind of helpful for this. I am planning on doing another video with the rest of the song, or maybe a couple videos with the rest of the song. The bridge all by itself is sort of an interesting study, so I may just do a separate video on that. We shall see. At any rate, please look for more on this tune. I hope this was helpful. Please check out the rest of my channel and contact me at davekosla@outlook.com if you are interested in one-on-one guitar lessons.